Welcome to the FLORE Fantasy and Sci-Fi Lore. This is part 6 of our Fallout series. We will be covering the followers of the apocalypse, the children of the cathedral, and the final confrontation with the Master. We will go over all of the canon endings for the various factions and places within the first Fallout game, and we will cover the endings that are considered canon, but you cannot get by playing the game because of either bugs or cut content quests that were required to get those endings but were removed. Nonetheless, they were considered canon in the future games. So we will cover all of that. If that is what you were looking for, this is the episode for you. Roll the intro. We are back in Fallout. This is part 6 of our lore series on the first game. As you can see, I got a tiny poster that was very disappointing he showed up, but did want to try and add some visuals there. So if we move on to Fallout 2...
Is that a guy in power armor or just a guy?
I think it's just power armor. So in Fallout 4, it hangs on these big racks, and so I think that is what it's from. If we go on to Fallout 2, we'll definitely get a bigger poster to cover that wall, but right now, we just got that little dinky one. Showed up, and I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding. Anyway, to the episode. So, last time, we destroyed the Mariposa military base, and most importantly, the FEV vats that they were dipping people into to make super mutants.
You win the game. It's all over.
No, it's not. Not yet. So, from there, we learned about the children of the cathedral and their connection. We learned that the Master had to leave to go somewhere because as he continued to mutate himself, he was becoming more and more immobile. And that place is supposedly the children of the cathedral. Along the way there, we are going to encounter the followers of the apocalypse. So the children of the cathedral is part of the Boneyard. The last time we were there, we talked about Aditum, a town that was actually a slave camp pretending to be a town.
Yes.
On our way to the children of the cathedral, we encounter a massive library. I assume this was the LA library before the war, and it is now the home of the followers of the apocalypse. And they have turned this into their base. They're largely a humanitarian group, and they offer healing kind of like the children of the cathedral. But their biggest thing that they do is they share knowledge. So they're trying to, through reading and studying the library, learn the agricultural techniques and basic technologies that help people grow. And they're trying to rebuild the world through knowledge as opposed to the Brotherhood of Steel through technology.
Getting Canticle of Libowitz vibes here.
So they're led by a woman named Nicole, and she gives us a brief history of the followers. So they came from a place called Dayglow. It was near the Glow. And so a lot of their people were dying of radiation sickness. So that is why they fled that area and came to the Boneyard. And raiders attacked them just like they did the Brotherhood of Steel. Seems like you get a big caravan going anywhere, raiders come calling.
Yeah.
And so they killed Nicole's parents and a lot of the other followers. But despite that, they still continue to believe in peace as the path of the wasteland, and that is through humanitarian aid and knowledge. Now, since then, they have trained people to fight and mercenaries, and despite their belief in peace, if you attack them, they have no hesitation in defending themselves now, right? And they have people paid and trained to fight, so some of them are pretty good at it. Right?
Okay.
So she is also concerned about the children of the cathedral, to the point that she sent in a spy to infiltrate their base, because it is just south of them, not too far. And the spy has brought back stories about Nightkin. So Nightkin are super mutants who have stealth boys. They're able to turn invisible.
And stealth boys are little boxes that turn you invisible, right?
Yeah, so I think you wear it on your wrist. At least the ones in Fallout 1, they kind of look like they go on your wrist like a Pip-Boy. And then, they turn you invisible. They also rot your brain, eventually causing insanity. That's something we'll learn in the later games. A lot of super mutants who are Nightkin assigned lose their mind and just go crazy.
Oh, wow. Didn't know this. Cyber psychosis.
Also within the followers of the apocalypse, we will encounter a man named Talius, who was a vault dweller from Vault 13, who was sent out to find a replacement or repair for the water chip. He made it all the way to the necropolis, where he was captured by the Super Mutants and dipped in the FEV. And kind of like Harold, his response was not to become Super Mutant, but to become ghoul-like, right? The Super Mutant that's got more humanoid going on to him. He has not completely lost his memory, right? He does remember he's from the vault, and he does remember attempting, to find a water chip in the necropolis, right? He remembers those things.
He can see beyond the veil.
Yeah, and so because he didn't completely lose his memory, he doesn't serve the master.
Still has his own personhood.
It is here through Talius that we kind of look, if we look at the research from West Tech, which is where we get a lot of the files on FEV, their sample sizes were very small. And we kind of learn, through the master and here through Talius, that because those samples were so small, they didn't understand the full extent and range of FEV. They thought you're going to lose your memory, right? Whereas the masters made so many super mutants. It's like, not always. So, and even Lou mentions that. So Lou is the lieutenant we have to kill at the Maripona military base. If you follow the chain of dialogue where you just repeatedly refuse to tell him where Vault 13 is and you don't get into a fight with him, he'll throw you in a prison cell and then at some point just say, we're just going to turn you into Super Mutant. He's like, won't I lose my memory? He's like, most likely, but not 100%. And since you're just not telling us, we're going to do it anyway.
Imagine the master has eaten more things exposed to the FEV virus than anyone has exposed.
Yeah, like the West Tech files are like, they're like, we did 20 things. We did 10 things. Master's got hundreds, maybe thousands.
He's like, that was Tuesday.
Yeah, but that was Tuesday. We dipped that many people in there. So he's got a lot more, we see a lot more variation, right? West Tech, they never see a Harold or a Talius come out of any of their experiments. But we've encountered two people who didn't go full super mutant. They stayed. Not only that, but Harold wasn't dipped in a vat, but Harold has his memory, right? He tells you all about his life before. So, yeah. So as we dig deeper now into the master's experiments and research, we learn more and more about FEV because he learned a lot more than West Tech knew.
But isn't Harold also one of the immortals?
Yes. Well, technically all the super mutants are, but Harold is a pivotal character in the Fallout world,
Yeah, he's different than the rest of them.
Yeah. So if we tell her that we're also concerned and we're, looking to stop the children of the cathedral, Nicole will send 4 members from her mercenary team to help us fight the children of the cathedral. There's one other important person here we can meet, and this is Katya. She is one of the companions who will join us. Now, Fallout 1, the companions aren't super deep. They don't have a lot of dialogue or anything. They're just like, yeah, I'll go join you, And I think the fact that Dogmeat doesn't have a lot of dialogue fits because he's a dog, right? But your companions just don't have a lot to say in the first game. And even Tim mentioned they were like a last-minute addition.
Gotcha. Didn't fill them out too much. But in the second one, we get more,
yeah. And then, by the third one, they've got like their own little storylines and whatnot. And then by the fourth one, they're fairly deep and rich. Or even New Vegas. Right? We head down to the children of the cathedral, aided by the followers of the apocalypse. Now, before we jump to the final scene of Fallout, we are going to go kind of into the future of what will happen to the followers of the apocalypse. Now, there was some content that was buggy when Fallout first came out. And they released a patch that fixed that content, but some of it was pulled. And that locks you out of some of the endings for the various factions within the game.
Oh, no.
Weirdly enough, some of those endings are considered canon, one of which is the Followers of the Apocalypse. So if you play the current version of Fallout 1 now, no matter what you do, the Followers of the Apocalypse are always wiped out by a super mutant army.
Oh, okay.
However, the canon, like going into Fallout 2 and Vegas and all of that, is that the followers of the apocalypse continue to just bring in more knowledge and educate more and more people. They will join the NCR and eventually establish the first university of the wasteland. And once they have built their university, they start sending out scholars to study different tribal groups and whatnot across the waste. And one of these scholars will be a man named Edward Sallow, or as we meet him in Fallout New Vegas, Caesar, head of the Legion.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I won't go any deeper into his story, but he begins as a member of the followers of the apocalypse. He's a scholar. He goes to the university, and they send out to study people in the Mojave, and instead he turns them into a private army.
And he's like, I can smart everybody here, and I can really do some of this.
But the followers are the center of knowledge in the wasteland for decades. However, during the Mojave campaign, the expansion of the NCR to bring all of the Mojave into part of their nation, a split occurred. There was a faction that wanted to focus more on research and practical application because, like, these were far more academic focused. And eventually, Julie Farkas, who we will also meet in New Vegas, will lead a splinter group that will then kind of merge with the NCR and create the Office of Science and Industry. And then this is kind of a competing knowledge consolidating group against the followers of the apocalypse. So likely you will either go to the University of the Followers or you will go to the University of the Office of Science and Industry if you really want an education in the wasteland. But any more on those two, we'll have to save for New Vegas. From there, we head to the cathedral armed with our allies and a bucket of knowledge. So there's a lot of conversations I'll kind of skim through here, mostly because by this point in the game, like, because it's open world and there's a lot of different ways to do things, it's very easy to miss a lot of the details of the story. So as we talk to people within the cathedral, a lot of them will give us pieces of the story you will have already have if you were very thorough, right? Reading the documents, exploring the dialogues, having a good speech skill, because otherwise sometimes it just won't tell you stuff, right? Like if you zeroed out your charisma and your speech, there's a lot, like, understanding the actual story of Fallout can get pretty challenging.
Or just low intelligence alone.
Yeah, low intelligence can also hurt you because, like, you get fewer dialogue options. Like, there's a lot of things that can just make you wander around in the dark shooting super mutants. You know, if you build for combat, which you kind of have to do to some degree, then you can miss a lot of the story in Fallout.
which is difficult. You are trying to build for combat because
there's a lot of combat.
Yeah.
And your allies are not great in the first game. You know.
Oh yeah.
Like they're very limited in what weapons you can give and they'll use. You can't upgrade their armor. They don't level up. Like, one of the great challenges of Fallout 1 is keeping your buddies alive.
Oh, went down again. Oh, went down again.
No, so, all right. So at the cathedral, we will see several priests who dress in the same robe that we take from Jane way back in the hub. Right, so we have that robe. We used it at the Mariposa military base to kind of bypass some of the defenses, and we will use it again here. So one of the two big conversations we're going to have on the first floor is a priest named Lasher, who will send us to talk to Morpheus. He likes to hit the initiates with a cattle prod, hence the name Lasher. He likes to just punish people and hurt people. He's just...
Don't feel like a cattle prod lashes.
Yeah, but it's I don't think he gets a better zap out of it. We'll also talk to Laura, who is the spy for Nicole. Mm-hmm. And she will reveal that there is a door behind the pulpit that is locked with a key that only Morpheus has, and that he goes down there to talk to the master. So, and she will really push to say that the master is definitely real. But from our experiences at Mariposa Military Base, we are aware he's real. This is Richard Gray, and he has come here. So she will also talk about the Nightkin and how people keep disappearing and Nightkin keep multiplying, which again, armed with the knowledge of the FEV vats, we know exactly what's going on there. So at this point, we would only be down to 2 companions, Tycho and Katya. Everybody else has died according to the canon.
Oh, okay.
Right. And if we have them stay behind, then we can go up and see Morpheus as long as we're wearing the robe. We don't have to fight through all his guards, which are all super mutants with miniguns and rocket launchers with stealth boys. Right. It is not a pretty fight. And it's like crowded, tiny hallways where they're like, mowing things down with miniguns. It's crazy.
There's no dodging.
There's no dodging. Yeah, just like they're just spraying the whole place down. Like, it's pretty intense. So wearing the robe is really the best way to go, trying to get to see Morpheus. Now, Morpheus sees himself as in a partnership with the Master. Mostly, like, he doesn't seem like an idiot, but he definitely seems like he's deluding himself. Be like, you are surrounded with super mutants. I'm pretty sure that if he said kill, you would die. So in a conversation with him, we can claim that Lasher sent us up there, and he sees that it's just Lasher wants us to get in trouble and sends us away. But at that time, we can then pick his pocket and steal his key, right? Anything else, and he and the mutants will turn on us. But if we just mention Lasher sent us up here, and he's like, oh, Lasher just wanted you to get in trouble, he'll just send us away. Now that we have his key, we can go down to the secret door, which will lead us into the demonstration vault. And we've encountered this before. This is where the people of Addington came from, right? The demonstration vault was in L.A., and then they hid in there, and then they came out. The Master has now taken it over.
Okay.
On the first floor, we find several human experiments. What they're doing is they're taking FEV and injecting it directly into the pineal gland. And this has started to get people to develop psychic powers. However, they lose their sanity in the process.
I've heard of this exchange before.
Yeah, that psychic powers is actually losing your mind. Pretty common trade there.
Yeah. Or you lost your mind giving you psychic powers. Sometimes it goes that way. But yeah.
This is interesting because we never see this developing beyond anywhere other than the Master here. But they are successful. Like, these people kind of lose their minds, but they are successful. As we explore around more, we can free a group of people, and they will explode instantly, right? And it is, maybe they had bombs on them and there was a tripwire there, or maybe this Master just used his psychic powers to detonate them. We don't know. As we continue to explore, we can meet a man named Gideon. Gideon is probably the most lucid of all the people with psychic powers, but he's not super lucid. But in conversations with him, it can come out that we're supposed to go talk with the Master, and then he will give us what he calls a crown, which is actually a psychic inhibitor to protect us from the psychic powers of the Master.
Okay.
Which is really important because he really can just tear us apart walking down the hallway. Like, I think the first time you enter his hallway, you'll take 10 damage. You take 2 steps, you take 20 damage. It just goes up. And by the time you get to him, you're taking 70 damage a step, right? He will rip you to pieces without this.
And this is going straight through armor, right? I take it.
Yeah. If armor doesn't do anything.
Doesn't matter, right?
Yeah. So the psychic inhibitor is essential to confronting the Master. However, he can be killed without confronting him. So on the final level, we will encounter the bodyguard of the Master. If we are still in disguise, we can walk past him. He just warns us against the psychic attacks. Apparently, the Master just puts out the waste. It's not even he's attacking you. It's just he's got so much psychic energy going off at this time that it just getting close is what tears you to pieces.
Heartbeat, it's just pow.
Pow. Something that I don't think, yes.
Yeah.
So, within the demonstration vault, in the overseer's chair, is the Master. So, as we enter past where most of the computers are that are used to run the vault, we see that he is slowly becoming the vault. The walls are covered in flesh that is still alive and moves, maybe like by his psychic power, or some of it is definitely connected to him, right? He did mention slowly becoming more and more immobile, and slowly over time he is becoming the Vault, and not like a Skynet kind of way. He's just like taking it over with flesh.
Just carpeting it over with his own skin
stuff. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So there we will meet Richard Gray, and in conversations with Richard Gray, he will speak with 3 voices, one robotic, one male, and one female. And these represent, one, he is kind of a multi-personality, as he has consumed people and things to grow his mind and his body. He has developed kind of this multi-personality, but they represent 3 different things. The robotic voice represents logic, the male represents aggression and expansion, and the female represents compassion and understanding. And you will see them have split viewpoints on different things as we talk with him.
Just kind of having a whole voting system up in his brain.
Whole voting system. So, and it is here that we will bring to bear everything we have learned on our journey about super mutants and FEV to convince him to end his expansion. The Master believes definitively that the best path for humanity to survive is through the super mutants. Immunity to disease, immunity to radiation, rugged and tough to survive in this harsh wasteland world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so his conversion of people to super mutants is, about his belief in the survival of humanity. And as we meet many of the children of the cathedral, a lot of them don't really believe. Some of them are just there for the free food. Some of them are there because it's safe. And at the end of the day, the Master, sees the FEV. He's like, you don't have to believe in the cause. You will after we convert you, right? Once we dip you, you're all in, because I educate you from a child. We also learned that he has kind of a telepathic connection to the super mutants, and that's how he controls his army and issues orders, right? There's a complexity in the fact that they're super dumb in controlling them, and he is building his army, and his army is not to wipe out the waste. His army is to capture them and just, dip everyone he can to ensure humanity's survival. But within his plan is rooted the reality that he was turned into a super mutant. And because that happened to him, that then becomes the option he explores, right? That's admits to that path because that's the path he is already on.
Right. Yeah,
so
makes sense.
With the data files we gathered from the CLO, we show that the early studies of FEV proved that it made super mutants sterile. With the autopsy report from the Brotherhood of Steel, we can show him that they have no sex or gender. They are just neutral. And as he continues to demand more and more proof, at one point, we simply tell him, why don't you ask one of the female super mutants? And he reaches out with his mind, and there are none in his army. Not a single one. And it is that moment that he realizes his plan is doomed, because the super mutants die in battle. The super mutants die to accidents, right? That the conversion of mankind,
stupidity.
And they are super dumb. Yeah. Yeah. And that his plan is not the survival of mankind, but its certain doom.
Nice.
And so he decides to wipe out as many super mutants as he can.
You don't have to do that.
You don't have to do that. He activates a bomb within the foundation of the demonstration vault.
Oh, all right.
So we evacuate the zone, and the entire building structure is destroyed with all the super mutant army that was there and most of the children of the cathedral. Right? And at last, we have finished the task. We have eliminated the super mutants in the vats. We've destroyed their leader. And he's not their true creator because people were coming out of there anyway, but they may have just been like people who were in cages and got released after bombs dropped. Who knows where the first super mutants first came from? Because we do know the Master, as Richard Gray, went there to stop super mutants, right? That was the original plan.
Mm-hmm.
So we begin the long trek back to Vault 13. And when we arrive, we encounter the Overseer waiting for us outside the vault. And he tells us we are the hero of our people. We have seen and experienced the wastes. We know what is possible and how so many different groups have found ways to survive in the wasteland. And our story will inspire others to leave. So he cannot let us back in the vault. And really,
might as well just close the door in the first place. Give me the bird.
After all we have done, right, at the end of the day, we know from our conversations with him, the thing he wants most is the people to stay in the vault. Not for them, but for him.
Because he doesn't get to be overseer if there's nobody to oversee.
Yeah. And he can't run the vault by himself.
Yeah.
But the Overseer's choice does not come without a price. Now, there's a couple ways the ending can go, but this is the canon version. So the Vault Dweller leaves to go make his way in the waste. But the friends we met back when we came back with the water chip and the water rationing was occurring there, our friend Lyle and Teresa, who we convinced to stay in the vault, are furious with this decision by the Overseer, and they lead a rebellion that rises up and overthrows the Overseer. They put him on trial, find him guilty, and execute him. Lyle, Teresa, and many of the others head out in the waste to find us, where we will start a new city in the wasteland, and this will be the city of Arroyo that will come up in Fallout 2.
All right.
The remnants of the Master's army flee to the east, away from the Brotherhood. We will encounter them in Chicago in Tactics, and we will encounter them as far east as Boston in Fallout 4. Shady Sands, as we talked about, will go on to start the new California Republic. Junktown will be their first edition. Harold will rise in leadership in the hub, and then eventually he will find the ghouls of the necropolis and lead them away from the death of the super mutants there to start the city of Gecko, which we will encounter in Fallout 2 and meet him again there. The raiders that we killed were called the Cons. A very few surviving members make their way all the way to the Mojave, where they grow their numbers, and we will encounter them again in Fallout in Vegas.
The Legion.
So the fate of Tycho, the Junktown lawman who joins us, and Katya, the follower of the apocalypse, are never detailed. We know that Ian, the caravan guard, died in the necropolis, and Dogmeat in the military base, but we have covered his complicated story because he actually does still come out in Fallout 2. And there is a cut content where Ian shows up in Fallout 2 as well. But we'll cover that when we get there.
All right. Well, that was a great recap of all of Fallout 1, Joe. Thank you very much.
That was Fallout 1. All right. We've gone a little long here, so we'll spare you the treasure room. But yeah, we hope you enjoyed this. Let us know if you want Fallout 2, or if you're interested in some other worlds. So the TV show came out, probably a month ago at this point, maybe more. And so we could keep going here if that's what you people are really enjoying, or if we want us to move on to another world. Let us know. We'll kind of make that decision on our own as well, since these are recorded about 4 weeks before they release anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Aaron is on hiatus. We don't know when he'll be back. He's just got a lot going on in his life right now. So,
yeah.
All right. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to the FLORE Fantasy and Sci-Fi Lore, wherever you get your podcasts.